Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. If you've spent a second here at all, you will know that we are on a mission to give you everything you need to make you more successful in your business. For me, that's about giving you everything I know about sales and marketing, everything anyone I can find who will share what they know about sales and marketing, and of course, what's going on in the world in the way of sales and marketing. That's what this is about. This is Effective Marketing News, and we are joined by the brilliant, the wonderful, the handsome, the incredibly soon-to-be a dad, Ionut Danifeld. Good morning, Ionut. How are you doing, brother?
Good morning. It's getting better and better, this introduction.
It's getting better and better, isn't it? Is it because I called you handsome this time?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that word.
Okay, good. So handsome. So you are happy with the introductions. Well, it's been 3 weeks, so there's quite a lot going on in the world. Obviously, there's major stuff going on in the world. In your part of the world, you know, not very far away from where your beautiful wife's parents are and where you're originally from. Yeah. So what do we want to say about that? What do we want to say about that?
I got a little bit of shivers when you actually started to talk. I think that is our role, because why we are actually doing this. So the format is interesting news from marketing around the world in the last 2 weeks, or in this case, in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think that by now everyone knows what's happening in Ukraine and with Russia. And it's absolutely really sad. And I think that there are some, I would call it stories in a way, how the big giants in the tech are playing their part in this role. And I think that's something that we need to cover.
Yeah. And I think from my part, I think it's an absolute abhorrence what's going on. It's unbelievable that this could be happening right in the center of Europe in 2022. And I want to just express my condolences and my respect and my sympathies for everyone who's affected by this, because this is just an absolute horror show. I mean, we spoke about this on the first news that we did, and you know, we kind of said this couldn't possibly happen, and it is happening now. So clearly, it has an impact on the tools that we use every day, like the platforms that we use every day in marketing. So I think, other than just to express our disgust at what's going on politically, we're not qualified to really talk about it in any other way other than in the way that impacts marketing, you know. So we did have a discussion about whether we should even have this conversation, but, you know, one of the weirdities of the world in 2022 is how absolute abhorrences can be happening, and the world just carries on, you know, so we kind of have to carry on as well, I think.
I don't think that it's about life going as normal, but to be embracing the new normal and the cruel reality of what's happening at the moment. And what I think is that, I mean, like, we don't have millions of views, right? But it's all right with the number of followers that there are people that are following us and that are watching us, is to basically to say our part of the story, how we see it from a perspective of marketing.
Yeah. And I think it is, you know, the things are intertwined. The platforms that we use for marketing are now almost, well, they are much more effective. We know they're much more effective than the mainstream marketing. So these are the major platforms for communication, you know, so clearly it's going to have an effect. Okay, so I'm interested. I've got 3 stories. You've got 3 stories. That's the format. Have you got 3 stories?
I got more than 3 stories this time.
Okay. All right, good. It's been more than 3 weeks. So as long as you're okay for time, I'm okay for time. So we can go as long as we need to. Are you okay for time?
More or less, yes. Time is precious, but yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So what are your 3 stories?
So, as you said, we cannot be ignorant regarding what's happening in the world. So the first one is, I think, I don't need to go necessarily into the news, but just to read a couple of stories how basically the entire big tech they're playing their role. So first of all, Google Maps live traffic data turn off in Ukraine. That's one. And another one is also from Google. Google follows YouTube in cutting off ad revenue to Russian state media. So yeah, I think that we need to allocate some time, and I'm sure that you found also some news. And I think you basically stated regarding big media, meaning like all of the traditional media, the role, and how social media is basically playing an impact in information, fake news, not fake news, sharing the news. I mean, like we've seen the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is basically more and more on Twitter rather than on traditional media. We know that people are getting their information from TikTok. I was reading, I saw, that by now you know that I'm a really big fan of TikTok, right?
Yes,
I saw that Ukrainians are showing videos how to operate tanks, leftover tanks, or enemy guns of Russia left behind, and they're showing videos how to basically control these machines, which is quite interesting, right?
Yes.
And from there, yeah, please.
No, that's okay. So you've got a few stories that pertain to what's going on in Ukraine.
Yes.
Okay. And are there other stories?
Yeah. So one is, because it's been 3 weeks since we covered it, I think that we need to talk about Superbowl in numbers. Superbowl is basically my. I don't give a shit about the game itself, but I completely love the ads. Right.
Okay.
So this is what I'm trying to say. So
Right.
Superbowl is in numbers. Another one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn acquires Israel web analytics startup Orbi for 80 million to 90 million to expect their marketing technology. You're a big fan of LinkedIn. I don't know if you're a big fan of LinkedIn since Microsoft bought LinkedIn, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I have one specifically for you.
Okay.
This one. How you called it last time? You have a word in English, like a news that it's kind of like unfolded in the end, and if we have time, we can cover it or not. You mentioned
the dead donkey.
last time.
There's a dead donkey story, is there?
Yeah, man, the dead donkey. I love this. So listen to this. This one is particularly for you, right?
Okay, we just need the headline now because we're gonna talk about it, at length later.
Brits are among the world's most active Instagram users and the more handsome Instagram users.
Good. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping we have time for the dead donkey story. Okay, good. I also have 3 stories. One of them is quite old news. It goes back to 3 weeks to when we last spoke. And actually, it was going on a little while before that, but we seem to have missed it. It's the story about Google being deemed unlawful or illegal in Europe. Not Google Analytics. So it seems to me that this is big news for digital marketers, and I think we should have a conversation about it. My second story is about TikTok, because you've inspired me again, Ionut, but I'm not sure you've inspired me in the most positive way. I'm interested in TikTok.
I've always inspired you. You're very making these videos.
You're very inspirational, man. You can't help but inspire people. Yeah. So I'm interested in TikTok, and TikTok is, 2 things. TikTok has had a big role to play in getting ground level news out of Ukraine about what's been happening. So it's interesting from that perspective. But the other news is that they are extending the length of their videos to 10 minutes. So are they going toe to toe with YouTube? So that's my second story. And my third story, my drop the dead donkey story, which I know you're absolutely going to love, is that Trump's social media has now been launched. Dun, dun, dun. So we definitely have to speak about that because, that's going to tie in with what we're saying about the truth and fake news, true news, whatever it is.
Isn't this the second one that he's dropping? He dropped one before, and he did jack fuck all.
Well, wait a minute though, because Google have also had 3 goes at launching a social media, and they've also failed. So you can't just say, you can't dismiss it like that. That's fine. Okay, so let's start with what you're saying about this horrible situation in Ukraine.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read a couple of things. So first of all is that what I said regarding Google Maps, right? So Google has disabled live traffic data from being displayed on Map app in Ukraine. For sure is regarding the fact that Russians, they can basically see where are all of this military, because technology is playing a huge part, and I don't know if it's used or not by military people, but it's quite interesting. The other one is basically by now we all know the sanctions of EU and the US and all of the other countries that are basically paying sanction for Russia. So YouTube is cutting off ad revenue for Russian state media. So Google will no longer allow Russian state media outlets to run ads, following a similar decision on Saturday by the tech giant video, meaning YouTube, right? So basically state media, they cannot make money and monetize content. And the third is basically the reality of how Twitter, Instagram, TikTok played a huge role in this conflict from a perspective of showing on-ground news. But it was like the importance of fake media. There was a video with Vitaly Klitschko. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's basically the ex-boxer and current mayor of Kiev. And someone was basically faking that video. They did deep fake video, and even they used the voice of probably him, or they did some mumbo jumbo there. And they basically, in that video, it was announced that Kiev is basically surrounded, which was not a reality. And I think that in this major conflicts, it's getting more and more difficult to basically trust what is right or wrong. So that's something I want to discuss. And basically the question goes back to you. How do you see the role of all of these sanctions, disabling Google Maps is disabling Ukraine, sanctions on Russia from a perspective of big giants? There is also all of these big companies, Adidas, BMW, basically the Volkswagen Group, they are out of Russia. And it's quite interesting how everything is unfolding.
I don't even know, well...
Where to start?
Yeah, I tell you where I began with it is... It's been going on for a year, this build-up. This has been coming for a year, and it's kind of been dismissed. But it came to my attention, I think, about a month ago. Some of the content that I look at regularly was talking about it. So when it happened, the thing that struck me is, even though I kind of had a sense of what was going on, even though I'd had kind of a sense of what the motivations might be and what the actions might be prior to it happening, is when it actually happened, and I've spoken to a few people, I spoke to you about it also, but the most noticeable thing that I felt was that I had no idea what to believe now. Absolutely no idea, because the idea of fake news, true news, and so it's almost like you can't believe anything anymore. And I think that is a really dangerous situation, because we might have got to the point where there is no way of discerning what the actual truth is in these situations, and in which case there is no truth in which, but the clear truth is that the people of Ukraine are suffering hugely. That's the thing that struck me, is that I've lost all faith in media. You know, I had no idea what to believe about what was going on. And I think that's an incredibly dangerous situation.
It's quite interesting, for example, how media is always going to take, like I'm talking about big media, meaning like all of this traditional media. When I think that when you're referring to media, I think that you're referring to traditional media, right? Like Sky News, BBC, Fox, yada, yada, yada. I mean,
yes.
Like, not to give this example, right? I think that the reliable news are actually coming from the ground, and you see, it's so sad to say it, user-generated content, because in the reality, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you have actual people that are suffering, and they're basically taking their phone and shooting a video on their social media, and that video is basically becoming viral, and that video is taken by traditional media and putting it up.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to see in these times of sad events how media is basically using this user-generated content. But unfortunately, the way that I'm seeing it, probably 90% of everything that is coming, just to give a number from my gut feeling, is correct. But also that 10% is actually unverified source. And it's so easy to basically to go inside the rabbit hole and to trust something that is not verified. And I'm really curious, where is that thin line of verified news or unverified news? And I give you the example of Klitschko, the mayor of Ukraine. All of the media, they basically took the news and it was like, oh my God, Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev, is basically saying that it's surrounded. And after this, they said, it's actually fake. So you had a bunch of people that they basically believed it. And now you, as a media, where you're supposed to basically to verify everything, you say, actually we were wrong.
Okay, so the thing is that like, whether we call it user-generated content, whether we call it on the ground reporting, whether we call it citizen journalism, whatever we call it, clearly that is the most reliable. But everyone in those situations is going to have a bias, you know. So there's lots of stuff come out now where Russian soldiers are now complaining back to their families, we didn't know this was going to happen. We were told these people would be welcoming us. You know, it's a horror show. So it's happening on both sides. So clearly, whichever side of the argument, or whichever side of the situation you are on, there is going to be that bias. But clearly, that is the most accurate reporting. The problem with that is that those people don't have the audience. So the mainstream media have the audience on all of these social media platforms, like which dwarfs any citizen of Ukraine or any Russian soldier who might be in Ukraine right now, you know. So like there is that instance. And the thing is, the mainstream media have now a mechanism or a process for putting this information out, is the frightening thing. So depending on which side of the argument you sit, like this happened with January the 6th, it was an insurrection. It happened with what do they call it? The impeachment of Donald Trump. You know, he was. So the point is about their MO is that they put the news out, and then by the time the truth comes along, that news is already established. So people will still be convinced that January the 6th was an insurrection, or that Donald Trump was successfully impeached, or that the Canadian truckers were Nazis. So once that news goes out, it never gets addressed again. So the other one that I've seen today, you saw what happened on Snake Island with the 13 Ukrainian soldiers and the battleship. So reportedly now, that was also fake news. There were 70 of them on the island. They might have told the battleship to F you, but then they surrendered and they were all taken away.
Captured. Yeah, they're captured.
They were captured. Yeah. So, I mean, it's horrifying to me. Is like, what on earth do we believe in 2022?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, and my position on all of these things also is, I saw a stat the other day that 80 that of all of the wars that have happened since the end of the Second World War, America has instigated 80% of those. So I'm always very skeptical of America in these situations. So yeah, it's what on earth to believe. And I think the more interesting thing is the extent to which these platforms have integrated themselves into our lives and our societies. Like you say, Google Maps, like with traffic reports. And of course, why wouldn't you would expect any military to be drawing on whatever data they can find, So of course they would be looking at that, and so it's just a horrific situation, and it's just insane the extent to which the tools that we use to do our work all day, every day, are involved and influencing the situation.
It's very influencing the situation. So I just pulled my phone to read something because
okay.
So what I wanted to say is that it's really important to see the role of the way that I'm seeing it is how much we are dependent on this tech giants, right? And how much is influencing our daily life, how much is influencing on a macro level, meaning like macro level, this entire conflict, right? So we all know that, for example, how Russian media is basically saying the story regarding the conflict. And they're basically saying that, hey, we went there to liberate, and it's not a war, it's basically small walk on the beach, through Ukraine. So people are basically
expedition.
Peacekeeping expedition. So basically, people in Russia were not aware of this. So I was reading something that I found. I saw a tweet. I don't know if it's from anonymous or not, but it's basically coming from one guy, and he says something that I found it freaking brilliant. So once again, people in Russia were not aware of what's happening, right? Because of the censorship. So the guy is saying, like, go to Google Maps, okay? Go to Russia, find a restaurant or a business, and write a review. When you write the review, explain what is happening in Ukraine. How fucking brilliant is this? So basically what the guy is saying is that they are finding backdoors in order to, because you're dependent on Google Maps to find a restaurant, and you're writing a review, right?
Yes.
And people are going to see it because people are basically not aware.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and that comes to, so for this, not this week's, but for a upcoming Talk Marketing, I'm talking to a guy this week whose whole business is like reviews and testimonials and all those things. So that kind of goes to the core of marketing. It goes to, this is just such a minefield. It is just so insane. Like, you've always resisted talking about the pandemic and stuff here, but what's the? For me, there's parallels. For me, there are parallels. So we're going to talk later about. Trump has called himself, called his platform Truth, something or other. So, but it seems to me like it may be now, in 2022, the waters have become so muddied that there is no truth. We're never going to understand what the actual truth of these situations is.
So I think that we can still go on regarding this. To be honest with you, after talking about this, I don't know how much I want to talk about linking Israel orbit. So I was thinking, me as a marketer, what can I basically do, and not to sound ridiculous when, because I don't consider myself a key opinion leader with my 4,000 followers on LinkedIn, right? Because that's probably my biggest followers. But I was thinking what actually I can do, because most of my audience is in Southeast Asia, and I wouldn't call it that we are ignorant, because we are not. What I would call it is, probably when it was the war in Afghanistan, I was on the same side. What is not close to me, I don't tend to care so much, But when it's really close to you, you're going to care. So basically what I did, I was searching on organization or NGOs that you can actually make a donation, right? So I think that's the power of people like me and you. Like, the more that you spread the news and the more that you're actually going to help, that's going to make a huge impact. And I don't understand, to be honest, these idiots and I'm really, really putting it out there with zero regret. The fact that you change your flag on Facebook and you're not donating a single dollar, or you're helping someone to escape, or you're doing something a little bit, or you're making a donation, doesn't matter if it's money or anything else, but you're changing your flag on Facebook, or you have a story on Instagram where you're basically saying, like, oh my God, this is so tragic and so on. And next story is basically about how you're basically going to a restaurant and sipping a glass of wine. I think this is a little bit, I don't know, in this current days, it's a little bit retarded.
Yeah, I don't think it's cool to use the word retarded. I think it's
unethical.
It's it's short-sighted. It's
Listen, it's not about retarded as mental retarded.
Well, let's just not use that word. But what it is ignorant, maybe. What it is. But we live in a world where we are just so ridiculously entertained or distracted, because there's precedent for this as well, like the Black Lives Matter thing, where people put a black square on their Instagram for a day, and they felt like they'd impacted the world and made a real change, and then nothing else happens, So it's insane how quickly people can absolve themselves of attachment, just not be attached. So I saw somebody who was on Instagram, and they posted a thing like, for every reshare of this post, 0.1 cent will be donated to save the Ukrainians. And then the next story was literally, here we are off searching for waves now to go surfing, So it's like, I mean, and that's also, I think, come about because of the platforms that we use. These tech platforms have created a situation where we are removed from reality, and you can just go to the next thing really quickly. You just scroll and scroll and scroll until you find something, I don't know, or you don't ever find anything. That's the thing of it. So yeah, I think that's an effect of the platforms that we use, and maybe, but.
And the effect of the platform, and sorry, on that regards, and the effect on that platforms is that these things are, I think, the psychology behind with changing, for example, to adding that flag of Ukraine or Black Lives Matters is starting to be a little bit like cool and trendy. You're not part of the movement if you're not doing it.
Yeah.
But what's the real contribution? I think that everyone should ask themselves, okay, if I'm doing this kind of action on my social media, what's actually the impact?
Yeah.
Right. So to give you an example, I saw one of my friends from Instagram, or one of my followers, the ones that I basically follow. What he basically did, he did a Google Sheet with all of the organizations that you can basically share. So basically, for me, that's basically impact. You know what I mean? I mean, like, he actually did something measurable. If someone like me, because when I wanted to donate, I was actually going and searching where the hell can I donate.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that resource that person did is something that is actionable, measurable, and impactful.
Yes. And I mean, okay, so the idiocy of the situation is that we are empowered to actually have an effect, but actually we are conditioned to just move on and not be impacted at all, you know? I mean, one of the amazing news stories, the cool thing about doing this is it causes you to go and look at news stories. So one of the amazing news stories I saw is how Romanians are opening up their homes to Ukrainian refugees and things. So there is always amazingly positive and powerful things also going on. But this is also a feature of the media that the positive very rarely gets clicks. You know, it's always the negative that gets clicks. So it's always the bad news that we hear, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to let you have the final word because I really don't.
The final, yeah, I even don't know what's the final word. Probably the final word is that you're responsible for every action that you're doing on the social media. And I think that the entire situation now in Ukraine is super tragical. And I think that each and every one of us, if we feel that is actually tragic, we should have a contribution. So spread the news of organizations and NGOs that you can help and donate.
Yeah.
I saw some interesting initiatives, for example, with companies that are hiring. I saw one person on LinkedIn that it was a reallocation manager, and it was providing free services for refugees that they wanted to basically be reallocated. Use your expertise in actually to create an impact and stop changing that freaking flag on Facebook, because that doesn't create any impact.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so that's something that people can actually do.
Okay. Should we go for two more news? One mine, one yours?
No, we've done your first one. Well, I think we're on my one now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay,
We need
so
splitting up.
let's see if I've got this right. No, I haven't. Oh, no. It's annoying. Okay, so let's come back to you and I will just read this story. Okay, so French regulator rules Google Analytics illegal. What they're saying, France's data protection watchdog has concluded that Google Analytics can't be trusted not to share Europeans' personal data with the US government. In a statement, the CNIL rules that an unnamed French website should not be allowed to use Google Analytics as it breaches Article 44 of the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. Sharing European data is only permitted where the other country has privacy laws deemed essentially equivalent to the EU's. However, the US has far lower privacy protections, leaving EU users in the dark about whether their data is being collected, how it's being used, and with whom it's being shared. Although Google has adopted additional measures to regulate data transfers in the context of the Google Analytics functionality, these are not sufficient to exclude the accessibility of this data for US intelligence services, the CNIL says in a statement. So two things occurred to me when I saw this. Like, firstly, how did we miss it? Because this has been going on since January and neither of us picked it up. It started with an Austrian government decree that it was illegal. Three things occurred to me. The second thing occurred to me is that this is a strike right at the heart of digital marketing. Like, if you can't now know how many people are visiting your website, which pages they're looking at, I mean, this basically cuts digital marketers off at the knees, I would say. I mean, it's not a existential blow, you know. digital marketing can exist without Google Analytics, but it's a step change for sure. The third thing that occurred to me was, okay, so there's four things that occurred to me. The third thing that occurred to me was, so what? Are governments actually empowered now to take down the millions of websites that exist in the GDPR? So can they actually put this into effect? And then the fourth thing that occurred to me was kind of what actually... Okay, so there's two aspects to this. So there's five things that occurred to me. The fourth thing was like, so what? What data is actually being collected through Google Analytics? It goes to IP level, but not beyond that. As far as I'm aware, I don't know if there's some super duper version that actually identifies people. I don't think there is. And then the fifth one is that there are much clearer breaches which haven't been addressed. Like email, for example, like it is illegal, you can't phone a policeman. It's not lawful to ship data across borders according to GDPR. But everyone does that. If you use MailChimp, their servers are in the States, so you are essentially shipping your data to the United States, and so those should be those should also be not usable. What do you think? What occurs to you when you hear this news, Ionut?
It occurs to me bullshit. This is what basically occurs to me. Come on. I mean,
so it occurs to you that it's bullshit.
It occurs to me that it's bullshit because you don't have only Google Analytics. I mean, like you have so much analytics. I mean, like yes, Google Analytics is the most powerful, but you have some other services that they provide analytics services, right? In the end of the day, you have also YouTube Analytics. If you want to see where are your user coming from, if you have a Shopify store, you can see analytics there. You have, if you have a WordPress store, there are plugins that show you analytics. Why only Google Analytics is the one that is basically blasted, and why you as a government or EU or French government are not basically giving also some other 5 names of potential companies?
Okay,
you see what I mean?
Yeah. So you're going straight to point 3, which is, can governments actually affect a change even if they decide that this is illegal? And the reason that they're just going for Google Analytics right now is because their tiny minds can't cope with the, they can't cope with the what's the word? Not pernicious, but they can't cope with how integrated with our lives these platforms are. So the best they can do is say, okay, well, that one tiny bit, let's think about that for a second. And you're right, behind that tiny bit, there is the monolith of everything that's going on in these platforms. So interesting. So you don't think this is a significant threat to digital market? Do you think what will they do? How would they?
So how they're actually going to tell me, they're going to what? You're telling me that they're going to hire a bunch of experts and they're going to use, Google Tag Assistant to go on every single site on YouTube and on Google and
on the World Wide Web and do what?
And they're basically going to say, okay, this French website or German site or Romanian website or the Irish site has a Google Analytics tag. Bam, we need to give him a fine big.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to go to Google and they're going to fine them 800 million euros, and then they're going to think they've done a good job, and then Google are going to carry on as the way that they did forever, because 800 million is like 20 pence to Google. So this is, I think that, I don't know, maybe they are going to shut it down. They're just going to say, you're not allowed to use this service in Europe. How would they even do that? But it just seems to me that governments are particularly poorly equipped to tackle these tech giants. These tech giants are way bigger than they are.
They don't understand I wouldn't go into details. I don't think that they understand the fucking fundamentals.
Okay. No, I don't think they
What's the
understand the
difference?
very fundamentals. Well, they don't understand the fundamentals that Facebook at its peak had 2 billion users. So Facebook is way bigger than any country on the planet, or as big at least as China, and certainly much bigger than every other country on the planet. So in terms, if you think of it in terms of population, and if you think of it in terms of wealth, these companies are wealthier than probably 90% of the countries on the planet. So they are too, I don't want to say they're too big to fail, because I'm really hoping they will fail, but they are too big to be taken down by governments. 100%.
If, and I'm only saying if, they're basically going to block Google Analytics, which I really don't believe it in EU. I'm absolutely it's going to be a big hit for digital marketers, because it's still the number one tool. But in the end of the day, they're alternative. I honestly, my limited mind cannot comprehend how the fuck they're going to do it.
No.
To be honest with you.
And so, okay, but let's just imagine they can do it. We're saying it's an assault on digital marketers, but actually it's an assault on businesses. What happened? You just zoomed much closer.
Yeah, what the fuck happened?
I don't know. You don't have to swear, bro. It's not necessary for you to swear. I don't know. It just zoomed in on you. Anyway, that's fine. Let me see if I can fix it.
You should put a circle of 18, like next to my name.
A circle of 18.
18 being like only 18 above should listen to me.
Okay, good. All right. Well, maybe just don't swear. And also, while we're on the subject of what you should say and what you shouldn't say, could you please practice now between when we speak again? It's at the end of the day or in the final analysis. That will save me about 10 minutes when I come to transcribe this. Okay? So you say in the end of the day, it's at the end of the day. Okay, good. Right, so let's imagine. So we're saying this is an assault on digital marketers, but in effect, this is an assault on businesses, because it's businesses that benefit from digital marketing. So this would have an economic impact if you take away one of the major supports of these businesses' marketing investments. That's what I think. And then to go to my point number 5, like it has been a regulation that you're not allowed to ship. Okay, I've got a guy who specializes in this. He trained as a lawyer and he specializes in marketing, compliance, regulations, these kinds of things. I don't get any sense whatsoever, for as much as they bluster about having these rules, that anyone has ever been fined for spamming people. Nobody's ever been fined for shipping their data, their clients' data overseas. Nobody's been fined under GDPR, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I had a GDPR issue with one of my credit companies where I said, look, I want the information you're holding on me. And basically they said, okay, now I'm going to swear. They said, fuck you. And I said, I'm entitled to this under GDPR. And they were like, fuck you. So I didn't get it. So it feels to me like this is always completely ineffective. I don't know. But it is marketing news, because this is the cornerstone of digital marketing, this idea of analytics. And it applies to everything, but right at the very foundation is Google Analytics. This is where everything came from. And lots of the alternatives, like you're saying, they aggregate Google data typically as well anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know. You're saying it's bullshit. You don't want to talk about it anymore?
You said it, not me. I think that I said everything. I mean, like...
No, I asked you, and
exactly
you said the first thing you said is it's bullshit, and now I'm agreeing with you. Okay, I found a bullshit story.
Yeah, that's good. That's a bullshit story. In Europe, and like any other, like also when Facebook was interviewed by the Senate, by the U.S. Senate, or I don't remember the name of the institution, I didn't understand how basically Facebook ads is working and what's the deal with Facebook ads. It's exactly on the same principle, right? There is no difference whatsoever when, for me, a government is saying like we should stop Google Analytics. I call it bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just like, I think the horse is bolted with these things. And I think if governments are going to, governments can, like we've both spent time in Indonesia, governments can shut down, like the Indonesian government has effectively shut down anything it deems to be inappropriate. So that's Vimeo and that's pornography. It's just not without using a VPN. It's just not available in that country. China has effectively abolished, or maybe ineffectively abolished, Facebook and Google and all those things. So governments can, but they don't seem to have the will to do that, Okay, good.
By the way,
you seem to be
by
bored.
By the way, Pornhub is blocked in Russia.
Is it?
They call it a... Yeah. So, for example, when the user from Russia is basically going to Pornhub,
yes,
to basically do their job, it's basically saying like, here is what's happening in Ukraine.
So as a sanction, they've blocked Pornhub. Okay.
Man, the last 10 years of Pornhub marketing, I find it ridiculous funny. I mean, like, you should give a word to the guy or to the team of marketing from Pornhub.
Yeah. Well, I actually trained some people from Pornhub one time.
Good.
We're not talking about that today. Okay, good. No? All right, so we are on your second story, brother.
Are you following Superbowl? Let me see how interesting is this story for you. Not Super Bowl, not Super Bowl, but like the ads of Super Bowl. This is what I'm basically saying.
No, I really don't care. I play a lot of squash, as you know, and I remember thinking as a kid that racquetball was so much cooler than squash. And I'm playing a lot of squash now, and I'm looking at a lot of squash, and it fed me some racquetball, and it made me realize what a stupid game racquetball is. But basically, all Americans do is take games and make them bad, make them worse, is what I think. So I have no interest in the Super Bowl. We have a friend who's very interested. What's the marketing angle on the Super Bowl that we should be interested about?
The ads one.
Yes. Okay, good.
I want to give you some number.
Sorry, but I'll just give you one number. I heard that the show by the rappers, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all those things, cost $7 million and was funded by themselves, by those rappers.
Really? Not by Pepsi?
I don't think by Pepsi. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but that's what I heard. Anyway, you give me the numbers.
So the numbers are 68 ads shown, 44 minutes of national airtime, 56. This is something that is interesting. So 56 unique advertisers, right? The viewership of the game was 12% more up, blah, 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 than last year. I don't give a shit. But freshman advertisers were some new, fresh advertisers, and rookie advertisers, meaning like new companies, represent around 40% of all advertisers this year. And interesting enough, they are some big, for the first time, crypto basically advertised. And the ads that drove the most online engagement is Coinbase, Google. Coinbase is basically a exchange, right?
Yep.
Google, FTX, which is basically another exchange, number 3. So basically the first 3 two of them are crypto.
Yep.
Number 9 is eToro. Meta also advertised, which is quite surprising that Facebook is basically advertising on national television, and they basically advertise their Meta platform.
Yeah.
It's number 7 as the most engaging. And so the top brands also mentioned on Twitter, Cincinnati, blah, blah, blah. Coinbase is number 6, Twitter, and a bunch of others. So the angle that I'm seeing, is, I'm going to do the same like you. So 3 angles. Let me see if I have more.
Okay, but you have to get to... Yep.
So 40% of our new advertisers, you have a lot of crypto. quite surprising the fact that Facebook advertised their new platform where they basically have 2 billion users, but they tend to spend their money on broad media.
Yep.
Right. So these are the three. You see, I'm keeping it straight to number 3.
Okay. So what do I think? I think we're going to see a trend where advertising spend goes back to mainstream media, because I think digital, like in terms of ad spend, like actual ads, not PPC, but social media ads, display ads, I think we're going to see that budget going back to mainstream media.
Why?
Because it's becoming so much less effective, because of the restraints on the way they use cookies, the restraints on Apple limiting the amount of data that Facebook allowed. I think it's going to become much less effective. And if you are investing a lot of money in creative, which is what people are going to have to do now, they're not going to be able to be so targeted with their ads. So their ads are going to have to be so much better. Their messages are going to have to be so much better. If you're investing that amount of money in media, then you may as well distribute it across all of the platforms that are available to you. And I see that going now to, well, look, in your case, you're advertising in the cinema, and I see that's going to go on. I see that if you're not going to be able to guarantee who you're landing that message on social media platforms, or display platforms, then why not just use all of those broad media advertising type approaches? So I see this going on, and meta advertising is kind of an admission of that. I think that that is that not an admission? This is an effective way to advertise. All we're talking about here is awareness type marketing. That's all it is. So why not just, if you can't discern this is exactly our audience on any of the platforms, why not just spread your spend across them all? That's what I think.
Yeah. And interesting that you mentioned awareness, because one of the news that I basically sacked, it was from Airbnb CFO, who said that we were right to shift spend from performance to brand building, basically brand awareness.
Yes. And this was one of the stories we had Starling Bank, didn't we? Where they were saying, so there's, I don't want to talk about how poor Facebook are every time we speak, but, Starling Bank's defense was they're failing to protect our customers from fraudsters, so we don't want to advertise in it there anymore. Yeah. And then when they took that spend away and put it in more traditional channels, they didn't miss it, So I think this is what's going on, and I think there is like a reputational risk to using these platforms. If they can't guarantee that the content that you're going to be advertising against is going to be appropriate. So this happened. I don't know if you saw one of the American fast food chains. Their ad was run as an inset over the horrors which are happening in Ukraine now. So clearly that's damaging their reputation, their brand. Yeah. So I think that I see this happening more and more and more. If you can't guarantee that your message is landing on exactly the right people using these specific platforms, and it's going to run against appropriate media, then why not just diversify and run it across all of them? And what the Starling Bank said is, we see that we've moved beyond those platforms. I think brands get to a point where they see that they should be reaching much broader, less targeted markets, through TV advertising, radio advertising, billboards, cinemas, magazine advertising, all that sort of stuff. Maybe I see it going that way.
The main problem is that we discussed on the previous subject. The main problem is at the end of the day.
Yes, perfect. Well done, good.
Is that analytics is still the backbone of every marketer, right? But the problem with this mass media is that you cannot track. So it's a little bit of
Yeah. But what we're seeing is you can track less and less effectively using the digital platforms. So that's what
true,
I'm
but
saying.
still
So
you can
if
track
you can still track, but it's
less
becoming less
effective.
effective. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
definitely.
what's your next news?
My next news is TikTok. This is as reported by Tech Times. Everyone's reported it. TikTok extends their video length to 10 minutes. TikTok has extended the duration of their videos to 10 minutes in the latest of their constant efforts to increase their video length for the past few years. According to CNET, the length of the videos on the popular social media platform has increased from a mere 15 seconds to a minute, then 3 minutes last July. Company spokesman recently talked about the change, saying it's meant to bring value to the community and enrich user experience overall. New 10-minute videos, blah, blah, blah. Other people who are reporting this, okay, so Matt Navarra is saying TikTok creeping in on YouTube territory. You can now upload videos 10 minutes long. So you've affected me, you've influenced me, because you've told me that the algorithm is so good and you're a fan of TikTok and blah, blah, blah. So I went to see what's going on TikTok in the things that we're interested in, like marketing, search engine optimization, blah, 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 blah. And the algorithm isn't being kind to me. I'm seeing all sorts of junk every time I log in. I still have to search, but that's fine. But what I'm going to do is on a Friday, for a bit of fun, I'm going to do middle-aged man react to SEO advice on TikTok or something like that. So I'm just going to sit here and watch some of these videos and because the question came up again recently because I teach digital marketing. Can you learn digital marketing online? So that's kind of what I'm going to do. It seems to me that there's a very real, very big difference between producing a 1 minute long video and producing a 10-minute long video. It changes the very nature of the platform. What do you think? You're the TikTok fan.
Before that, that Friday thing is kind of like a midlife crisis that you're having, that you're going where the cool kids are going.
No, I'm not having a midlife crisis, but what I am doing is I am talking to, like with my talk marketing thing, I seem to start every one with 15 years experience, 20 years experience, 30 years experience. So it feels to me like I'm excluding anyone who is new to this. And so really it's just an excuse to get more content on my channel, you know.
Good.
What are the kids up to? Do you know what I mean? Is kind of what it is, and how useful or relevant is it?
Okay.
So, and I'm going to react to things other than TikTok as well. But maybe I'm going to reach out to some of these TikTokers and see if they want to come and talk to me on the talk marketing thing. So yeah, all I'm looking to do is get more and more content here that's going to be of use to marketers. That's all. It's not a midlife crisis.
Good.
It's not a midlife crisis, Ionut. It's not a midlife crisis.
The more that you say it, the more that I don't believe you.
I've got the sports bike. I've got everything. You know, I'm fine. It's not a midlife crisis.
Okay. Just repeat it.
It's not a midlife crisis, Ionut.
So the way that I'm seeing it is that TikTok, I think that it's a smart move. They're having more and more audience and they're having more and more users. And I think that they're purely giving the flexibility of the users. The users, they want to express more. I'm sure that they were looking back into the data. And I'm sure that I saw some videos that were saying like, okay, it's 1 minute video. I need to wrap it up, right? I need to basically end it up. And I really hate, one thing that I really hate on TikTok is that fucking trend with part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always falling into that trap because I want to see I want to see what's basically next. Yeah. And I know that I'm pushing the engagement to this dude or to this account. I think that is a really smart move from their side. I mean, like they're moving to big players. Even Twitter, they basically put up the limited number of characters a few years ago for exactly the same reasons, right?
Yeah.
Was it Twitter competing with Facebook? It's still a social network, right? It's TikTok competing with YouTube. Yes and no in the end of the day, right?
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day. What did I say?
You said it in the end of the day again.
At the end of the day.
Yes, good.
It feels like a grammar lesson, this conversation that we're having.
That's okay. So what do I think? I think part of if there's charm, if there's everyone's going in different directions. So TikTok are going up from 15 seconds to a minute to 3 minutes to 10 minutes. YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook are all going in the other direction to enable people to make specifically short videos. I think if there is a unique at the success, at the root of TikTok success, I think it is this fast format. It's like bang, 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 bang. Do you know what I mean? It's 15 seconds, 30 seconds, however long. And I think part of what attracts me to the marketing content is you have to be quite, I think, creative to be able to deliver something of value in a minute. Because like what I'm against is this one marketing secret, do this one thing and you'll be successful. What I'm really motivating people to do, a little bit like people's health and going to the gym, is sit down, work out what it is you really want to achieve and make a really good plan to get there and invest however long it takes, weeks, years, months, years, whatever it is, but know that you're on the right plan. So that's what is kind of attracting me, is the creativity that's involved in being able to convey something useful in like a minute. So that's what I'm interested in. And the thing is, all that's going to happen is that everybody who's uploading 10-minute videos to YouTube will now also upload them straight to TikTok, I think. So all they're really doing is enabling 10-minute long video producers to come onto their platform, maybe.
And content to be shared across platforms. So to give you an example of what we're basically doing, and we tested it out. We have all of these videos on on TikTok. And what we are doing now is basically we are uploading the videos on YouTube Shorts.
Yes.
And not even editing it, like we are basically leaving that TikTok watermark.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. But did you say that you found it less effective when you were posting the same content across all the platforms previously?
It is.
Yeah.
It is because it's influenced by a couple of factors, by trend, by by the sound that you're using. So it is a little bit less ineffective.
Yes. But I think, so my mission is now with these talk marketings is like they're an hour and 15 minutes long. I really like the long form thing. Like I really enjoy Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan is the most the biggest platform on any of these platforms. He's the biggest, most successful individual, I think, with 11 million views. Podcast, yeah. So I like the long format, but what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking is that I need to cut these down. So I need to cut them down into 10-minute sections, but now there's 30 of them, and I've got another 6 to edit already. And then I need to pull out like minutes. So what is the most valuable minute in this hour and 15 minutes? But the issue there is it's going to take me at least an hour and 15 minutes to watch them and decide. And it doesn't work like that because you don't know what the most valuable thing is until you've watched it 2 or 3 times, So I think it's an interesting move. I think what might be behind it is like Vine. Vine couldn't sustain itself on these short form videos, So maybe they're seeing like they haven't quite resolved the advertising issue, have they? Or even the revenue issue, So maybe that's what they're seeing, is that they have to have longer content to be able to justify to advertisers to hold audiences, maybe. Yeah.
Good. Can we take one more and we wrap it up?
We can take one more and then one super short one. I really want to talk about Donald Trump's thingy.
Do you really want to talk about the Donald Trump?
Yeah, very quickly. Okay, so your third story is...
LinkedIn acquires Israeli web analytics startup Oribi for, let's say, 90 million to expand their marketing technology. Okay, so what basically Okay, so what basically Orbi is a Tel Aviv startup that specializes in marketing attribution technology. So you know that Facebook has a different attribution model, Google has another attribution model, YouTube has another attribution model, etc., etc. So you as a marketer, especially if you're in e-commerce, you don't know which one, because if you're combining the data, because both of them in Google Analytics, they have different attribution data, you're going to see, if you're going on Facebook, you're going to see, let's say 30 conversion based on Facebook, but you're going to go on Google Analytics and you're going to see only 20 conversions in Google Analytics coming from Facebook, because that's basically the attribution number. So what Orbi is doing is kind of like unifying and providing attribution model for everyone. Now, the idea behind is that this, according to TechCrunch, because this is the website that I basically found it, where was it? So the deal is interesting in two levels. First of all, it's a signal of LinkedIn continuing to invest in its marketing and advertising services, and an area that is growing at a fast clip for the company. Second, the acquisition of Orbi specifically points to see change in what LinkedIn is settling to do out in marketing. And here is basically Orbi mission is to have described previously has been a democratized web analytic. In other words, it wants to make easier for smaller companies to build and run customized analytics to measure the impact of their marketing strategy, something that larger companies might have teams to execute, but smaller organizations typically have to forego because of their lack of resources.
Yeah.
Right. So we discussed recently about analytics, right? This smart guys from government, that from French government or EU, they basically want to block Google Analytics. And basically, notably, Orbi competes with its likes of Google Analytics, which means that now LinkedIn, and by the association with Microsoft, is also squaring up against one of the aspects of formerly Google digital advertising and marketing machine. Quite interesting, right?
Quite interesting. I mean, this is the mission of all of these ad platforms is attribution. And the question is, how many display ads did they see before they realized that they wanted this thing? How many YouTube videos did they watch? How many before they got into the direct response, before they clicked on the PPC ad and said that I wanted to do something? So this is a mission. It is incredibly complicated, I think. Complicated to the point where I would have said previously impossible, because a lot of this analytics is only happening at the IP level. So the thing about Google Analytics, I suppose, if we think about it sensibly, is that if you are logged into Google and you're doing these searches, they do know exactly who you are. So the point is, until you're logged in, until you click, until you register, they don't know who you are beyond IP level. So that has been the challenge. I don't think it's insurmountable. The interesting thing for me is, why is it LinkedIn buying this and not Microsoft? Because LinkedIn for me is the worst of all of these advertising platforms. Like, seriously, I've only ever been, and I use the word advisedly, raped when I've advertised on LinkedIn. I've given them way too much money and got way too little value. So LinkedIn is the least effective platform for advertising. And everyone I speak to about LinkedIn says the same thing. So yeah, this would be beautiful for who would it be beautiful for? For digital marketers, for people who are spending significantly on ads, because the issue currently is that you can only really attribute the last action. Something like HubSpot's good at this. If you run the HubSpot database, because you can see, like, only by going to that one record and only by going all the way through, you can see when they visited your website and what pages you've been on and which emails they've opened and all those kinds of things, and where they came from originally. So yeah, this is the mission. This would be huge for digital marketing if they were actually able to sort this out. But something tells me, because it's Microsoft and LinkedIn, they probably won't.
we're going to probably fuck it up. That's exactly the way that they fuck it up. Also, LinkedIn, such a beautiful platform before.
Yeah, I mean, it was
but
okay.
I think that the way that we should see it is that it's quite interesting, the move, especially of. It's interesting that you call it LinkedIn, and it's actually a really fair point. To be honest with you, I didn't actually think about it. Why LinkedIn acquired it and not Microsoft? And to be honest with you, I don't have any answer for you.
No.
Something that I need to think. But I think that the way that we see it as marketers is that how important is that attribution model to see in digital space where we want to put our money in, right?
Yes.
Which channel is actually performing? Because once again, you're going on Google Analytics, you're going to see that Google Ads is performing better than Facebook, but you're going on Facebook and you're going to see that Facebook is performing better than Google. So which attribution model is the right one for you? And there is no correct or right answer, right? You have linear attribution model, you have last click attribution model, you have first click attribution model. So which one is it, right? So I think that Orbit is kind of like playing a unification, because I'm familiar with this kind of attribution models, right?
So the issue now is that the only attributor that you can really identify now is the last one. So all of the brand type stuff hasn't been measurable. You know, you can see how many so it's measurable, and you can see how many impressions you've had, how many times your ad's been displayed, all of this sort of stuff. But what you can't attribute is like to the individual. How many display ads did they need to see? How many social posts did they need to see? You know, so I mean, I would have said previously impossible to do that because of the way the data is collected, but maybe because people are logged into Google more now, or they are continuously logged into Facebook, or maybe you are able to start attributing the value of all of those things. And you're 100% right. Now, a digital marketer can say, because if I was running a campaign for someone, I would shy away from anything I can't attribute. So PPC, 100% all day, every day, I'll do that. But like brand advertising, I'll shy away from, because I can't necessarily go back to the company and say, this is exactly the outcome of this, other than so many people, it was displayed so many times, so many people saw it. That's what I think. Yep. Okay, good. Truth Social. Trump's new social media app launches on iOS. Users are reporting facing trouble signing to Truth Social. So what's interesting is this went immediately, because you said previously that there wouldn't be audience for it, but it went immediately to the top of the bestsellers on Apple. Now, Apple, we know, a more liberal, you might argue, Democrat kind of market, but it went straight to their top downloads. But then people had issues downloading it and installing it and signing up, which I think goes to the difficulties there are in launching a social media platform. Interestingly, Apple have allowed it to happen. Interestingly, it's gone to the top. Interestingly, it's more difficult than they probably thought. Most interesting is it seems to be a really direct rip-off of Twitter. Apart from you don't have tweets, you have truths and retruths. So the question I have is, and this kind of goes back to the first thing that we were talking about. The question I have is, like, if a significant amount of market appear on this social media platform, do we as social media marketers who might not approve of everything Trump does or says still have to look at it as a viable method of advertising? Is Trump going to become another Zuckerberg because he effectively launches a social media platform? This is I think Trump has the audience to do this to some extent. That's what I kind of think.
Isn't this the second social media platform that he's launching? Once again, I'm asking you the same thing. Okay. He launched it also another one. So he failed with that one. I was trying to find what's the name of the other one.
I don't know. I don't have an actual recollection. Okay, so Donald Trump launches Truth Social.
Yeah, and
Quietly
before that,
launches July.
Yeah, but before that, it was basically he was launching when he was blocked from everything. He basically launched also another website. It was kind of like a voting up down.
July 2021. So that was 7 months ago. Quietly launched something. Might be the same thing. My page is loading really slowly.
Yeah. And this one, by the way, I actually went on the Truth Social. It's not available in my country.
No.
It's only available for the US.
Right.
So what was your question again? If it's miserably going to fail, yes, it's going to miserably fail. Or what was your question?
My question is, if this attracts a large enough audience, do marketers need to look at this as a viable opportunity to market to people? You know, Hillary Clinton described these people as deplorables, didn't she? So my question is, are marketers going to market to the deplorables?
Is there where are your money? Where is your market? If that's where are your users, I don't know. I think that there is a thin line between business and ethical, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make money, you need to speak where are your customers. If your customers are Trump supporters, and not everyone is basically, there are a lot of intelligent people that are following Trump through various reasons. Why? Then yeah, you need to advertise. But again, ask your question: do you support him or do you support his action? Yes or no? I don't think that he's making this network based on actual how it's called, on actually thinking that he's going to make money. To be honest with you, he just wants a platform to express himself. So
yeah. So that will be the next question, which is like, can he, serial entrepreneur, resist the urge to, like, is he just going to sell out? You know, because this is what's going on with these platforms. They get launched as an alternative to give people more freedom of speech, less censorship, blah, blah, blah. And then they become worth something, and then they get sold to YouTube or whatever. I think it's interesting. It was the drop the dead donkey story. We don't have to take it too seriously. I know it offends you to talk about Donald Trump.
Yeah. Brits are the most active users on Instagram. Quite interesting enough.
Okay. Why?
Good. Why?
Oh, you don't want to talk about it? You just want to leave it there?
I just wanted to leave it there. So when diving into Instagram engagement data, it's clear that the Brits are discovering our local treasure and home comfort. This has definitely been influenced by international traveling becoming so complicated with COVID. So Brits are basically staying on Instagram because they cannot travel anywhere. That's basically the explanation, because of COVID and all of the restrictions.
Okay. I don't get it. It's not my experience as a Brit. Who is reporting this?
Marketing Tech.
Oh, okay.
Can I share it?
I think you can try and share your screen. You might break it.
There we go. I shared it on the group, on the chat. Do you see it? Don't you see the chat?
Not really, no. I've got to get better with this now. I haven't used it for a couple of weeks. Oh, because you didn't turn up last week, so I haven't really played with it. No, okay, I'll believe you. Marketing Tech, they want to tell us that that British people are the most active on Instagram.
More.
Okay.
Top. Good.
Love you, man.
Always, forever.
Well, it's going to be a little while till we. Do we think? I mean, we might get one more in before Mini Ionut arrives. But literally, 2 weeks from today is the 16th. That's the day he'll be with us, little Ionut Danifeld.
Yes, never know. Maybe sooner, maybe later.
So do you just want to time out from now, or do you want to see if we can get anything done that week? I mean, I just want to let you know that I think you're insane if you think you're going to get anything else done that week.
Maybe it's going to be my zone out. I'm going to be, like my escape from this conversation.
Yeah. Oh, no, not an escape. Like, you can take time out. You'll definitely be coming back.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Love you, man.
Thank you. Take care.
And
bye.
I will speak to you very soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.